Other honors include being a finalist for Narrative's 30 Below contest and winning second place in Cutthroat Journal's Joy Harjo Poetry Contest. He's received fellowships from Kundiman and the Saltonstall Foundation as of last month. He holds an MFA from Syracuse University, and this fall he will be joining the PhD program in English and Creative Writing at Texas Tech University. Please give a big, warm, ruckusy Rochester welcome to Chen.
Thank you all for being here, and thanks, Rachel, for inviting me to come read. It's a pleasure and an honor. I want to start with this poem. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Is everything okay? Okay. Louder? A little louder?
There you go. You want me to turn up the volume?
Maybe.
Ragaman, do it. Yes, sir? No?
Well, you probably need to adjust the microphone more. So.
No, I think it's... You turn it up a little louder.
Yeah.
There's so many fancy knobs. I only know how to operate my own fancy knobs.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
There's the back row is very far away.
Okay, so I'd like to start with this poem by Sarah Gambito. It's called The Good Provider. The best thing of all is to take the enemy's country whole and intact. My mother took my heart out. She banked it on top of her stove. It glowed white. She put it back in my chest. Tita knew that overseas workers often had affairs. He licked me, and I pretended it pinged through my body like a swift idea that I wrote about, considered like a bell of good craftsmanship. She also knew that their kids ate better. He said, "Your belly is like a cat's," he said with his bowl up to his chin, "More, please." At night, the fireflies come out. They flock to my window. I put my hands up against the screen. I think how fragile it is to be inside a house. They say, I want permission. I paint my face. I say, just take it. Easy. If equally matched, we can offer battle. If unequal in any way, we can flee from him. Deprived of their father while sustained by his wages. I thought a lot about walking around at night, by myself, just to think. But I never did. I thought I could just flick a switch. When I was born, my mother and father gave me a gardenia like a personal star. Don't you hate it when someone apologizes all the time? It's like they are not even sorry. So I'm gonna read a couple poems, 3 poems I think, from the chapbook that's gonna come out later, and then some newer poems. So this first one is called As the Snow Falls. It's for Lynn. As the snow falls, I hear again my father shoveling our old car out of the snow, as the snow kept falling almost 18 years ago. Though I am far from the year now, the town, I hear and love loud the eager young sound of the shovel right next to the gray car coughing awake. And I love my father, his arms and hands, the many small frenzied sounds of his joints bending, muscles lifting. I love my mother, who had witnessed only TV snow before this country, climbing into the car, the brave sound of her black boots. I love her watching and hearing my father snap icicles off the car roof, her ears taking in that incredible crunch and break forever. I love my mother yelling at my father to hurry, love him hurrying carefully, love the old car trying its best to keep us warm, love my mother, her shouting and cursing and laughing, her 2 immense lungs and 3 languages as the snow ceaselessly. I hear and love again her whole body beginning to do what it did once for me, and little me tagging along my sleepy giddiness as I waited with my father, soon to truly be our father, and mother, our mother. I hear and love again that January night of blizzard and blessing, all 6.5 beautiful pounds breathing, breathing. I hear and love you, brother, as the snow falls and falls, then and now in your voice. So I'm working on a first full manuscript that is based on my MFA thesis, so that's why I have this big binder here to stay organized with the poems. This is called Race to the Tree. 1. I was 13 and it was night, and without even knowing it, I had successfully evaded the Amherst police for 4-5 hours. I was 13 and it was night, and without having committed any crimes, I was being pursued, looked into by the Amherst police. Well, perhaps I trespassed, scrambled up a tree way past mine and its bedtime. It was the big stoic oak that had once served with dignity as safety. It was the oak close to my family's apartment, so close it was pathetic that the police couldn't find me. So close the oak might as well have been ours, but it wasn't. It belonged to the landlord. Every oak and pine and birch, every last tree in the apartment complex belonged to the landlord, whether or not he was there to climb each one himself. That's how it should be. Climb a tree, spend the night there, and it's yours. I'd scaled this old, safe tree with my running shoes, planning to run away. If not far away enough, then for long away enough that my parents would start to miss me. I was 13, it was night, and all night I stared at the moon from my tree, willing myself to think not of them, but of how cool it would be to kiss, to be kissed. Oh moon, for a long time, for the first time, to be KISSING in this or any tree. 2. I wanted to kiss a boy on the throat, not the soft, smooth neck, but the protruding, tough core of a boy's throat, the part named after the very first boy, and the stupid fruit his girlfriend made him eat. His girlfriend's ugly, I thought in my tree. I'd be much better for him. By dawn, I was still 13 and kissless, but had made it, using my spy and JV track skills, 8 blocks away, without being detected, to the university, the glass and concrete country where my parents put on their best American accents and smiles to earn degrees the equivalents of which they'd already earned in China. I was 13 and wouldn't have said it so succinctly, but I knew something about the sadness of the facts. Oh moon, hungry moon, unkissed and silent, I would kiss you. In that moment, though, I decided to spit and kick at the gray concrete, recalling mom and dad's idiot faces yelling at me. I was 13 and it was morning, and the concrete deserved my punishment. Am I climbing it like a tree? Am I installing myself as the landlord here and everywhere, and everyone should see? I was 13 and it was morning, and my eyes hurt in the growing light. And then, as the sun poured its useless gold on all the solid gray, as I was about to finally reach the top of the slanted edge of a wall, for the first time, my speedy, stealthy sneakers failed me, and I slipped. 3. Ankle twisted and whimpering, I limped back home. My mother rushed out and greeted me with pale-faced silence, the command to get in the car. As she drove me back to campus, this time to the student clinic, she told me that she had called and called the police, who had told her it'll be all right, we'll find him, though they hadn't, maybe didn't even bother to find me. I said nothing, watching my mother's fingers tremble on the steering wheel. An hour later, I boarded the bus to school on crutches. At school, I told the boy I liked, the boy with the best mile times on the team, that I was just getting some extra practice and wasn't careful, and guess now I'll never be as good as you this season. He looked at me for a moment, looked away. I didn't tell him I spent all night in a tree because my mother slapped me after I told her I might be gay. I didn't tell him that I hit her back, that my father tried holding us apart like the universe's saddest referee, but still we kicked and screamed and hit and hit. I didn't show the boy the bruise. I didn't show the doctor. I said good luck at the race today, then closed my eyes, thought of night, of the moon bobbing through it, like an Adam's apple plucked out, bobbing through a dark absence of throat. Oh, silent and unkissed, that's how I wanted you to suffer too, boy who wouldn't look at me. Seeing you run so beautifully on the track that afternoon, I wanted you to suffocate, breath starved from all the miles you'd run away from me. I was 13, I am 13, it is night, and if it's a race to the tree I've climbed alone for years, the tree that's felt like the loneliest but only safety, if that's the race, I will outrun you. I'm sweating from that.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
that was a marathon.
Okay.
That was amazing.
Okay, next poem. Let me see. Let me try myself a little bit. Okay. Okay. Thank you. This is called Second Steeping for Anna. Leaves of time sweetened into memory, we steep them again, drink them again, drinking the whole curious house on the mountain, the milky light, those 3 days slow to age, no better than slow, unhurried, and us happy to put our sorrow on hold, to wander the quiet your grandfather built, your grandmother deepened, the paintings, abstract, medieval, the rugs, rabbit, floral, the shelves of cookbooks, picture books, books dispensing sex tips from the 60s, the mobile still moving in the former baby's room, pine cone, hawk feather, old crisp leaf turning. And one afternoon, the storm, the grandfather voice of thunder calling, the small kettles replying, and evening's post-rain purple walk, following your childhood map, down to the witch's house, then back, big windows, hot tea, the kettle's silver singing, the night falling like hair, the darkness like kindness, welcoming us in, how you helped by switching off all the lights, then looked up at the moon, a crescent, a sideways milk mustache on midnight's face, then returned to the puzzle just begun, 500 pieces of your favorite band, our bodies vanilla and jasmine, the night awake with our searching. What's next? Okay. A little bit of a shift. Okay, so those are from the chapbook.
What's the name of it again?
Set the Garden on Fire.
Congratulations.
What?
You have it yet.
Oh, it doesn't. Yeah, it's coming out later this summer.
We're excited. We're all going to buy it, right, guys? Yeah.
Okay, this is called I'm Not a Religious Person, but... I'm not a religious person, but God sent an angel. One of his least qualified, though. Fluent only in, let me get back to you. The angel sounded like me, early 20s, unpaid interning. Proficient in fetching coffee, sending super vague emails. It got so bad, God personally had to speak to me. This was annoying because I'm not a religious person. I thought I'd made this clear to God by reading Harry Potter and not attending church except for gay weddings. God did not listen to me. God is not a good listener. I said, stop it, please. I'll give you wedding cake, money, candy, marijuana. Go talk to married people, politicians, children, reality TV stars. I'll even set up a booth for you. Then everyone who wants to talk to you can do so. without the stuffy house of worship, the stuffier middlemen, and the football blimps that accidentally intercept prayers on their way to heaven. I'll keep the booth decorations simple but attractive. Stickers of angels and cats, because I'm not religious, but didn't people worship cats? Thing is, God couldn't take a hint. My doctor said to eat an apple every day. My best friend said to stop sleeping with guys with messiah complexes. My mother said she is pretty sure she had sex with my father, so I can't be some new Asian Jesus. I tried to enrage God by saying things like, when I asked my mother about you, she was in the middle of making dinner, so she just said, too busy. I tried to confuse God by saying, I am a made-up dinosaur and a real dinosaur, and who knows, maybe I love you. But then God ended up relating to me. God said, I am a good dinosaur, but also sort of evil, and sometimes loving no one. It rained, and we stayed inside. Played a few rounds of backgammon. We used our indoor voices. It got so quiet, I asked God about the afterlife, its existence, human continued existence. He said, oh, that. Then sent his angel again, who said, I never heard from God or his rookie angel after that. I miss them. Like creatures I made up or found in a book, then got to know a bit. Okay. This is called First Light. I like to say we left at first light, with Chairman Mao himself chasing us in a police car, my father fighting him off with firecrackers, even though Mao was already over a decade dead. And my mother says all my father did during the Cultural Revolution was teach math, which he was not qualified to teach, and swim and sunbathe around Piano Island, a place I never read about in my American textbooks, a place everybody in the family says they took me to, and that I loved. What is it to remember nothing of what one loved, to have forgotten the faces one first kissed? They ask if I remember them, the aunts, the uncles, and I say yes, it's coming back, yes, of course, when it's no, not at all, because when I last saw them, I was 3, and the China of my first 3 years is largely make-believe, my vast invented country, my dream before I knew the word dream. My father's martial arts films, plus a teaspoon taste of history. I like to say we left at first light. We had to. My parents had been unmasked as the famous kung fu crime-fighting couple of the southern provinces, and the Hong Kong mafia was after us. I like to say we were helped by a handsome, mysterious northerner who turned out himself to be a kung fu master. I don't like to say I don't remember crying, no embracing in the airport, sobbing. I don't remember feeling bad, leaving China. I like to say we left at first light. We snuck off on some secret adventure, while the others were still sleeping, still blanketed, warm in their memories of us. What do I remember of crying? When my mother slapped me for being dirty, diseased, led astray by Western devils, a dirty, bad son, I cried, 13, already too old, too male for crying. When my father said, get out, never come back, I cried and ran, threw myself into night, then returned at first light. I don't remember exactly why or what exactly came next. One memory claims my mother rushed into the pink dawn bright to see what had happened, reaching toward me with her hands, and I wanted to say, no, don't touch me. Another memory insists the front door had simply been left unlocked, and I slipped right through, found my room, my bed, which felt somehow smaller, and fell asleep for hours before my mother, anybody, seemed to notice. I'm not certain which is the correct version, but what stays with me is the leaving, the cry, the country splintering. It's been another 5 years since my mother has seen her sisters, her own mother, who recently had a stroke, who has trouble recalling who, why. I feel awful, my mother says, not going back at once to see her, but too much is happening here. Here, she says, as though it's the most difficult, least forgivable English word. What would my mother say if she were writing a poem, this poem? How would her voice sound? Which is really to ask, what is my best guess, my invented, translated, Chinese to English to English mother's voice? She might say, we left at first light. We had to. The flight was early, in early spring. Go, my mother urged. What are you doing, waving at me, crying? Get on that plane before it leaves without you. It was spring, and I could smell it, despite the sterile glass and metal of the airport, scent of my mother's just-washed hair, of the just-born flowers of fields we passed on the car ride over, how I did not know those flowers were already memory, how I thought I could smell them, boarding the plane, the strange tunnel full of their aroma, their names I once knew, and my mother's long black hair, so impossible now. Why did I never consider how different spring could smell, feel elsewhere? First light, last scent, lost country. First and deepest severance that should have prepared me for all others. Okay, let's do this one, because it's kind of fun to read. Okay. It's called Will They, Won't They, Will I? I've been watching a lot of TV on Netflix. Okay. So this is out of that experience. Will they, won't they, will I? Will they, won't they kiss, date, finally fuck, fall, have fun making up, out, mocking some made-up takeout business guy villain's Asian accent? Will they have a reason this time? Will I reproduce the scene here? Will I, by reproducing it, rerun, renew a fucked-up, overdone laugh? But who is laughing? How can you live in New York, Seattle? Okay, Scranton maybe makes sense for 9, 10 critically lauded, commercially successful, binge-watched by many seasons. But only fuck, hear, see people of color when it's boring subplot somehow related to white protagonist breakup, engagement, new dog week. There was a week I was mistaken for 3 other Chinese, not Chinese, but still Asian, I guess, people. There was a week the senior editor of a prominent progressive journal asked if I was related to another Asian poet. Someone with my very common last name, my very common face apparently. There was a week or 5 I did not want to say hi to any white people. I wanted to stop seeing, hearing, doing what I have to dial down, apologize for, cover over, saying again, of course, again it was irony, wasn't your intention, all the friendly filler nouns, prepositional positions expected of me, to protect whiteness from its own failures, limitations, or a success dependent on being able to fuck, giggle over the minority you think will be fine, won't bite, likes you, like you do, would do you. Why don't you fucking try to pronounce an R in Chinese, Japanese? Hi, actually it's pronounced differently in the 2 different languages. But I don't want to reproduce Asian as East Asian, fall into the old traps, tropes. I don't want to be your new cultural chauffeur, racial tension masseur. I want to break your mouth, my ears, the screen displaying, replaying the boy, my first boyfriend who paused, said, wow, you don't know what chink means. Chinky eyes. People say it all the time here, where the Chinese are taking over. Will I ever forget that? I learned a racial ethnic slur from my first boyfriend. He said, I like your eyes. They're not really chinky eyes. Why did I say thank you? Why did I stay with the boy in college for 2 years? The one who said, but they make fun of everyone on the show. Some things are just inherently funny. Asians do tend to be short, shy, small. Am I reproducing yet? Is my suffering self-successful now that is seen by the right white eyes? Is AWP so far from Hollywood? Don't I secretly hope for a TV deal based on this very poem? 24 lyric episodes in which an immigrant mother, father, gay immigrant son finally fucking screams, fuck you. You try leaving everything, everyone, love, every love, face, laugh, leaving, starting over. You try that. Then say every letter perfectly. Yeah, I'll end it there. Thank you.